not even knowing what Wednesday means, just thinking, this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do, but you're a winner. And when you approach these things that you get to do with a winning attitude, then it's going to go a lot easier because you're going to either do it feeling like a winner or you're going to do it feeling like a chore. So which one do you want to do? So there are chores, that's not in denial. But it's about when our thoughts and our feelings align. So with that being said, my name is Stacy Renee. I'm a mindset coach, a life on life's terms coach, because life is lifing. So I like to come to you. I set an intention in the morning before I come on here. Maybe what I say today will help one person, because each one of you is special. And I'm so grateful that I get to meet with so many people all over the world, and so that's pretty exciting. I was just sitting here praying, and my Grinch thought something was wrong with me because I was praying, and my Grinch had to come over and see what was going on. Hello, Adib. How are you today? So, John London, I'm so glad you didn't miss today, though. It's always exciting to see you. Grinch and I love that. So thank you for being here today. We're going to be talking about your picker isn't broken, but a lot of people say my picker's broke, and okay, Adib, that's cool. That's good that you're cool. So anyway, they say my picker's broke, but what we say has an energy extended to it. So I want us to change our dialogue in what we say, and it doesn't mean that your picker fars a romantic relationship, because a lot of people struggle with jobs. So what do we struggle with? And remembering that our picker is connected to our choices. And so are my choices broke? That's what it means. Are my choices broke? What do you mean by my picker is broke? I know sometimes we seem to not be able to find the right job. We might not be able to find the right person. We might not be, and we may have friends for a reason, season, and a lifetime, but sometimes we don't even figure out what the reason was. So we may feel rejected by the season and feel defeated by the lifetime, So it's about understanding our choices. I used to hate when I would have a breakup and people would say, oh, it's a reason, season, and a lifetime. And I'd be like, you know what you can do with your reason, season, and a lifetime? John London, I stopped picking to really identify what I want and choose instead consciously. I love that, because yes. So that's what I love to do on here, and that's what I love you joining, because the thing is that when we realize that there's a subconscious and unconscious and the consciousness, and that it really is a part of our lives. The unconscious is obviously we don't know, because we don't know what we know until we know. So that's unconscious, and sometimes we're slipping into self-sabotage, not doing what we want to get what we want. We're doing the opposite of what we want to do and not getting where we want to go. And sometimes we think that breaks our picker and that messes up our choices. So consciously, as we take that deep dive into ourselves and our soul, because the soul is the one tugging when we're making poor choices for ourselves or what have you, the shoulds. Because in between the conscious and the unconscious is the shoulds. So, I should have done this, I should have done that. And that's shaming. And it's not, that's, the subconscious that's saying you're not good enough. And that's not true, but it's a subconscious thought, is that what I'm going to do is those survival skills to try to not feel like I'm not good enough. So it's trying to seek things outside of ourselves. So yeah, getting in touch with what we want and choosing that, and your picker isn't broken. It's what you are conscious of and not conscious of. And so you can fix it. It doesn't mean, when I hear people say my picker's broken, to me it says that you're thinking that there's something wrong with you and your choices. And so with the self-trust that I try to promote is, how do we get to self-trust? Because that's empowerment. Because when we feel like our picker is broken, what that means, what does that mean if you're in here and you feel like maybe your picker's broken? For me, what it means is when someone says my picker's broken, what I'm hearing is that you don't trust your choices. And like John London was saying, I stopped picking to really identify what I want and choose instead, because sometimes we're attracted to things. Hello, No Plan Production. Hello, Epic. You made it today. This week we're talking about compatibility. Yes, self-depreciating. It does sound self-depreciating when people say my picker's broken. And just to think you're telling all your consciousness when people, you're not you, but when people say my picker's broken, they're not really thinking, that it's affecting them, their body language and everything else. But what it is it's affecting their choices, not just the choice in like a romantic relationship. Is there, it's that insecurity underneath. All right, welcome No Plan Production and Bachelor Bread. We're talking about compatibility this week, and this morning's topic is your picker broken? So I've got my notes here so that I can read also the comments and stay on track. Got to learn to trust yourself. Then you can make better choices if you're aware of those made in the past. Exactly, John London, because the reason people think that their picker is broken is because they misplaced their trust, isn't it? Is that they've misplaced trust. And when we've misplaced trust, your choices, Brad, your choices. So when we misplace trust, we may, say, hi, Zazika. We may say that my picker's broken. And so it does sound self-depreciating, like John London says. Hey, Zazika, we're talking about compatibility this week. We talked Monday night about, you don't have, we all have choices, darling. So, is my picker broken? I've got my notes here. Toka, if you don't stay on topic, darling, I'm going to put you out. You're welcome to stay here, but you have to stay on topic, or Epic can put you out too. Yes, finally made it. I'm currently watching, have a sneaky suspicion they're definitely not compatible. Oh, my glove, greetings. It's good to see you this morning. So yeah, thank you all for being here. So we're talking about compatibility this week. And Monday we talked about, what did we talk about Monday? I write so much content that I forget, and I forgot to check. Mondays was, hold on here. Let me see if I can pull Monday up, so I can give you a refresher, Epic, and those that weren't here. So Monday night, we talked about, am I compatible with myself? Because that's where it starts, is being compatible with yourself. A lot of people don't think, am I compatible with themselves? They're looking outside of themselves. And so this is what we're talking about with your picker. So first off, understanding, am I compatible with myself? Because a lot of times with compatibility, you can't stay long getting ready for work. Well, thank you for joining while you can. And thank you, Epic, for timing out Toka. So, understanding, y'all some weird people this morning. Y'all making some weird comments. I don't know if you're weird people, but y'all got some weird comments this morning. My name is Stacey Renee. I'm a mindset coach, and we're talking about your compatibility this morning. My glove. At the moment, I'm single. I'm compatible. Yay, because it's good to be compatible with yourself. So it's not necessarily that I'm trying to matchmake here and have people be compatible with somebody else, because I think being single and the choice of being single is very empowering if that's what we choose. But some people are single and they're lonely, or they describe themselves as lonely, and they let that define their worth. So that's why it's so important to be compatible with ourselves, because then we know that it's not about us. It's about our choices once again. So that's what leads us into, is my picker broke? Because it's not just choices in romantic relationships. It's choices in, okay, thank you, Epic. So it's also choices in Sorn. Is that how you say your name? Sorn? Is the G silent? Sorn? So I'm not lonely, I'm single. Very good, Webhave, because you don't have to be, just because we're single doesn't mean that we're lonely. But also not saying to ourselves when we're single, is my picker's broken? Because a lot of people just are like, some of the people I work with are, I'm just going to chill with my grandkids. My picker's broken. And it's like, if you want to chill with your grandkids, chill with your grandkids. But why are we saying that my picker's broke? Because John London says, that's self-depreciating. So the things that we tell ourselves, hello, American Puppet Forces from uptown Chicago. Careers Gamer Bolt. Hello, it's good to see you. So my name is Stacy Renee. If you're new here, I'm a mindset coach, life coach, and I just like us to think about, get together. This is a great community. We support each other. We get together and share thoughts on topics like compatibility, things that are going on within ourselves in our own lives. So I really appreciate you all who get on here and join, because you're participating in your own life, your own thoughts, rather than doomsday scrolling and all of this kind of thing. So that makes me feel really good that you are choosing yourself, because I feel like these things help you to choose yourself, because a lot of times we say things like, the compatibility thing, and some people aren't trying to hear us, If you don't like the people you attract, back to the workshop to work on oneself. Exactly, Epic. Exactly. I had a client last week tell me, when am I going to quit attracting these narcissists? I said, you're going to keep attracting narcissists. You're an attractive and powerful person. So you're going to keep attracting them. The point is recognizing them, right? So when we heal our wounds, we recognize what is for us and what's not for us, and then we're clear with our choices. We don't just accept and settle for something that's not ours, something that doesn't belong to us, because we are always going to attract all kinds of people, because human beings love that unity, right? So we love unity, and that means a lot to me for y'all to be here. I love unity too. But the thing is that when, what are we attracting? And also, knowing that when you attract these things, that you have choices. So just to touch base on the compatibility is, do my actions match my values? When we say we want one thing, there's a graph available about, that's interesting, Bachelor Brad. Thank you for sharing that. And I've heard things, we figure, a lot of times people look at astrology, am I compatible with this sign? And I do believe that there is some truth in that, that there are certain signs that have certain characteristics based on the time of year that you were born, and how things, but is that a for sure thing? I don't think so, because we all have our different life experiences, and that takes into account things too. Well, Bachelor Brad, my email is in the description. If you want to send me that graph, we will talk about that. I get back on here Friday night, and we could talk about that Friday night or even next week. So if you want to email me that graph, that would be great. Okay, Barris Alper, I don't know what you're talking about. We are staying on topic today. You're welcome to stay if you're on topic, but if not, then, Epic will probably put you out of here, because I got to stay focused. That's why I have my notes on the side, but I'm not going to read your comments if they're not on topic. Things were different back in the day, Brad. Those too shall pass. I know, because, yeah, we do evolve. And so that's also why I like to get on here, because I get a lot of insight from you all too, because we are all evolving and things are changing. They've changed since our parents, which is where we've gotten a lot of our data that's in our mind, is it's come from our family, of origin. And like we said, we all have different life experiences, no matter what sign you were born under. Those life experiences are also going to take into account compatibility with somebody. Sometimes, like I said, it's a reason, season, and a lifetime, whether it's, your family. We talked about some disasters with families here on Monday night. Some people have had some deep, hello, AJ, I mean. So some people have had some deep disasters in their families, and that has, either regulated them or had them on survival, and so we need to think about our choices. It's not just because somebody's attracted to us don't mean that it's necessarily ours to have. And this is what's empowering, is when we get to decide, not, giving our power to somebody else. Oh, they're attracted to me, and, they're kind of attractive, or we rationalize and justify why. Hello, Adrian from New Zealand. I wish I could hear you all, your accents on here. I love these accents from England to New Zealand. And hello, Adrian. Or are you calling me Adrian? Pass me the salt, please. Don't let it get you down, Brad. It swings like a pendulum. It does. Hello, SG from London. We have John London in here from London, too. I love getting to see you all from all over the world. So we're talking about compatibility. Do I trust my values? Do my actions match my values? A lot of us don't think about what our values are until we're heartbroken. And it's like, but no, I wanted to have trust. I wanted to have integrity. I wanted to have this. And then when we're heartbroken, then we think our picker's broke, right? Do I respect my own boundaries? Sometimes we have to set the boundaries with ourselves first to feel comfortable. Because a lot of times when things, after 3 months, when people start behaving or the job starts doing what it's doing, the pendulum swings very slowly. It does. It does. And there's transgenerational teachings and traumas. You hear generations after generations coming up with these sayings. Epic was nice to put them in here, some of the meanings of the sayings. And when we realize what some of these sayings that have developed our expectations actually mean, they have less power. But we developed expectations on some of these sayings. We've developed expectations on some of these sayings, and we think that it's intuition. Expectations and intuitions are different. So do I respect my own boundaries? Do I comfort myself? See, a lot of people, Mr. Summonveer, it's good to see you in here. So do I comfort myself? A lot of people seek comfort outside of themselves, and they don't say to themselves, I'm seeking comfort. This feelings make me feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to grab food. These feelings make me feel uncomfortable. And sometimes they say, oh, I am overwhelmed. I need a cigarette. Do you really need a cigarette? I mean, if you smoke, I'm not a hater. But we'll say these things, and what do we need? That's the point, is smoke your cigarette, but think about when you're smoking your cigarette, what do I need? What do I need? We usually just stop with that and distract ourselves. So how are you comforting yourself? Are you processing? Because that's what's going to bring you comfort in the long run, is getting to know yourself. That's why we're here, Brad, is because here we're not divided. And I appreciate you being here, because there's so many things you can look at on the internet and people be divided. And that's my intention when I get on here, is this unity and community. Mr. Summonveer, we're talking about compatibility today, not just romantic compatibility, because sometimes we're not compatible with our families. Sometimes we're not compatible with our jobs. Sometimes we're not compatible with our partners. Sometimes, the modern dating atmosphere is divided. It is really hard, Brad. I talked about that on Monday night, because a lot of times nowadays people are pretty shallow. It's my experience in the dating field. Pretty shallow. And I'm not a shallow person. So again, I'm not settling and choosing to be with somebody who says, if we connect, do you think we might be able to be intimate? What do you think about? And it's like, delete, swipe, delete, X, what? Trust me, Brother Brad, women are quickly becoming centrists. The internet just contains the nasty extremes. It also helps us. Yes. I love that, I am one of those women sitting home with my 48 hours with my bird, because it takes a lot to get me to go out of my house. And somebody better be very interesting and have some dialogue to get me to come out of my house. So you see me in the house most of the time. Y'all are my Friday night date, and I love y'all. Y'all are the most interesting Friday night date I could have. So when we talk about dating, but I've also had jobs. That last job I had, I was compatible with for a while, but later on, it called for me to compromise myself, and I wasn't going to compromise myself. So again, we look at the reason, season, and lifetime and don't flip it off like I used to, So it is about evolving and understanding that maybe what did I learn from this? What did I learn? And see, this is where when we can get to what did I learn, we can change our dialogue about my picker is broke, right? So we want to change our dialogue, because your dialogue is powerful. What you say to yourself and what you say out there is what you're going to attract. So you worked, no, I did not work for Amazon. Or did somebody in here say they did? I don't know. Maybe you're not talking to me. That's what she said. Very underrated and important topic. Compatibility is like the all-encompassing umbrella term for the changing age of mandated compromise. Yes, yes. And if we learn what our own compatibility with is, are you, the topic Monday night was, are you compatible with yourself? Because a lot of people are compromising themselves to be compatible with somebody else. But and then they feel deceived. They feel like their picker's broke, or they feel like, that, what is it? Sometimes I get these, this is why I have notes, so I can read these and have notes. And so anyway, yes, but you are so right. That's what she said. I appreciate that you respect the topic, because a lot of us don't think about compatibility until the job ends or the relationship ends. Is this isn't for me? That's what compatibility is, but then with that pain. So if we can learn from that pain, like what I'm saying, learning to comfort ourselves, to process that pain, instead of expecting someone else to, because I talked Monday night also about how we can bounce from relationship to relationship when we label somebody a villain. If we just walk away and we're like, oh, they suck, they're a villain, I was tricked. And when maybe we didn't listen. I had to learn that I wasn't listening to the other person. When I romanticized and got in my illusions of what that I wanted, because I was only thinking about what I wanted, I wasn't giving the person in the relationship the opportunity to be who they were, not even from the beginning. And see, this is very important. This is that totally negates compatibility. And we end up heartbroken, because then when we sit down and process it, if we sit down and process it, we realize, oh, they said this. Oh, they said that. We have here a talk on compatibility this morning, Joe Richardson. Thank you for joining. So we're talking about compatibility, and I like, that's what she said. It is an underrated topic, because a lot of people don't think about compatibility until they're heartbroken, until they're jobless, penniless, poor, heartbroken, all of this. Then we start thinking about, I wasn't compatible with that. And if we learn that we're just not compatible with something, rather than to villain and victimize things, then we can be more empowered. So that's what we teach here, is empowerment, Zara Lifestyle. Thank you very much, darling. I like Zara. I plan on shopping at Zara. I may even get a job at Zara when I move to Europe. Epic. Oh boy, guys, she's, I don't even know how to say that word. I gotta write that down so I can look it up. I don't even know how to say it. Uno, BTAN. You live in the UK, Joe? You're from India? I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but I live near Cancun, Mexico right now. Oh, Samir, I'm not gonna even, you better stay in your house. Zara. Thank you so much. It's a Texas accent. So the last question is, do I give myself the same grace that I expect from others? A lot of times this is where we misplace our trust. And that's why we think our picker is broken. Why we don't trust ourselves is because, and we don't process that pain. And so do I give myself the same grace I give someone else? If your friend was heartbroken, if your friend lost their job, or if your friend does this, you are so compassionate. You're probably very supportive. We talked about Monday night, I think it was, or it might have been another talk I did, but some people never get support in their life. And they tell themselves, I never get support. And so our words are powerful. If we say I never get support, we may be repelling support, because sometimes also, I have been supportive of people before, an ex-husband, and he would say, while I was helping him, he would say, I never get any help while I would be helping him. I'm like, what the hell? I would be helping him, and he's saying I never get any help. Anytime he asks for help, but I'm not a mind reader. I'm intuitive, but that doesn't make me a mind reader, and you're not a mind reader either, because intuition calls for us to get in touch with our divine mind. So we can sense energy, but we can't read people's minds. Our thoughts do create our reality, John London. Can we control what we expect? Dill, that's a tricky question. You can only control yourself. You can't control what you expect. But the thing is to a degree, lending this energy like I'm talking about, is the energy has a lot to do with what's going to happen. It's how we show up in life for others and ourselves, and that giving that grace. Hello, Nick Tubo from the Philippines. Thank you for shouting out this morning. So the expectations are not necessarily intuition, like I was saying earlier. So our intuition puts us more in alignment with what we want. It's sort of like if you feel lucky, you'll be lucky, and you see opportunities versus the opposite. Exactly. So this is like in the nervous system, or our algorithms in our life, which wasn't even really a popular word back 10 years ago. So when we're talking about evolving, algorithms weren't even a word, really. None of us really, I didn't hear that much about algorithms. Maybe it was 10 years ago, but 20 years ago, we didn't hear anything about algorithms. So this is part of this evolution. And so, but the algorithms are also the input. What you're looking for on the internet, people are like, this keeps showing up. Thank y'all for the hearts, whoever did that a while ago. They'll say, this keeps showing up. And it's like, yes, because you're feeding an algorithm. So a lot of times that's an expectation. And they think that this is telling them, but they're feeding an algorithm. And it's a choice. The algorithms you feed are a choice. So thank you for choosing this one this morning, y'all. Dating sites are for the socially impaired. It's interesting. The game never changes. Let me read these comments. I love y'all's comments. It's interesting. The game never changes. We attract mirrors. Exactly. But the more developed we become, the harder it is to see us. Less overly toxic, but just as relevant. And that's why it's important to take the time and space for ourselves and breathe and get into alignment with what we want. And knowing that there's a bigger thing, bigger picture happening out there, and our words are very important for that bigger picture of the things happening out there, what we attract to ourselves, because we live in an electromagnetic universe, whether anybody wants to believe it or not. We live in an electromagnetic universe, so there is attraction and repulsion. Your words, your energy, those are definitely what attract you and repulse you to people without you thinking. And that also has your compatibility. That's what guides your compatibility. If you need to heal things, if your words are saying things, or your energy is saying that you don't feel good enough, then oftentimes we will go with what's familiar with us when we have a different choice. You see? Sometimes I've chosen somebody who had a lower self-esteem because I had a lower self-esteem. So that seems easier, but the easier way is sometimes the harder way. Dating sites are for the socially impaired. Yeah, I don't do dating sites. I got on there, and y'all know how I feel about dating sites. It has worked for some people, I will say, but I don't encourage dating sites. I think that if we want to attract compatibility, for me, I believe when I'm out and about and feel that energy around me, first off, that's one thing. Also, the like-mindedness. Are we going to be doing the same things? Is it somebody who walks? Is it somebody who, because I walk a lot, so somebody to try to keep up with me has to be able to walk, a lot. Not marathons, not anything like that, but I like to walk. I'm not looking for the easy way, because I'm going to walk as long as I can, because someday I'm not going to be able to walk, and I would wish I could walk. And so as long as I fulfill myself with my walking, but this is consciousness, like what was said by John London earlier. So being in our mind, rather than, a lot of us are trying to live in this instant gratification, and I did too. And that I didn't make compatible choices when I wanted instant gratification. It's our lifestyle. Some people get very offended by others. Why? You have to care. You know yourself, it's enough. If you're explaining to somebody that know what I'm like, that kind of person, people judge anything. So, if it's like when we're responsible for our choices, it's like, am I going to hang out with people who judge people, who are making fun of people or talking people badly? Because a lot of people are going to be talking about people, or are they going to be talking about them poorly? So what are we going to be talking about? I like to talk about people. I sit around talking with people about our dreams, goals, and visions. Those are the kind of things that are compatible with me. If somebody's talking about all the money that they make, or what they pay on these bills and that bills, or they're talking about their grandkids and all of this all the time, I don't have grandkids, so that's not going to be compatible with me, So I may, like to listen to it for 5 minutes, but we're not going to have long conversations about it. And I think that that's sweet that they have grandkids, but they've got friends that got grandkids too, and they're going to want to talk about them. If the grandkids, have issues, then maybe I'm going to talk, if they're teens and they have issues, then we might talk more and, share stories about that. But yeah. So compatibility and not judging, because I think it's great when people have grandkids if they want grandkids. My daughter tells me, Mom, I don't know if you're going to be a grandma. I'm like, okay, because that doesn't give me my identity, you see. A lot of people learn their identity is tied to having grandchildren, and that my identity is not tied to that. I don't, SG. I think it pays to have generalized optimism about expected outcomes, but the stoicism, I lost it. Oh. Stoicism to understand that humans will let you down, and this is nature, not absolutely. I agree. It is nature, because people will, everybody's doing what they do because that's what they do. I know that for me, and this is why some people may think their picker's broke. I know for me that I used to think that I had that control, and that people treated me the way they did because of me. And we don't have that much control, y'all. People act the way they act because that's the way that they act or behave. Now, some people may not like the way you behave, and we need to find the people that are in our energy field, because it's okay. It doesn't mean anyone else's energy feels bad. We don't have to label them bad energy, good energy, and all these labels. It's to get in where we fit in. That's what we learn in recovery, is get in where you fit in, and you may evolve and change. It might be a reason, season in a lifetime, but yes, it's nature. John London, our thoughts become our beliefs is another saying. It's important to not believe less of yourself and that your beliefs reflect the goodness you want. Absolutely. And, our thoughts are expressed through our words. And so when we say our picker's broke, like you said, it's self-depreciate. And so do we want to self-depreciate ourselves, or do we say, like my glove said earlier, I choose to be single? So it's okay. And also with our jobs, is if our jobs are taxing to us and requiring us or wanting us to do things that we didn't sign up to do. My last job, because I love internet, I love being able to do this, but I also love to connect with people. And my last job in working with them as a mindset coach, and I loved what I did. But eventually they wanted me to be asking people, they wanted me to do a biopsychosocial analysis of people. And I like to just meet people where they're at. I don't want to ask them 50 questions and not develop a relationship with them, right? So the people that I work with, I develop a relationship with. They're not a robot, and I'm not a robot. So there are people who dig that, who are into that, but that's not me. So I had to leave because that was compromising me, because I told them from the beginning, because I helped build that company. And I told them from the beginning, I'm not going to be all into, you have to have an equal amount of this. I'm not just about collecting data. There's people here. And so when we're dealing with people, it's not just about data. I want to know your thoughts and feelings, not the questions that I need to ask you to get through this biopsychosocial, So I had to leave that job. I was not compatible any longer, but I loved what I got to do there for the years that I did it. Bachelor Brad, most of all single women are on dating sites. Okay, I think I got lost somewhere in the comments. Let me catch up. Everyone projects Zara. Check yourself whenever you make accusations or generalizations. Yes, thank you. Yes, I do read books. I'm not going to talk about my top 5 reads right now, but for compatibility, I would say that I always suggest The Mastery of Love for Don Miguel Ruiz, if that's a love relationship that you want. So we realize why we are attracting what we attract, because in that book it talks about how we attract from our wounds and how that's meant for our healing. So it could bring in consciousness, like was said earlier, because it's meant for our healing. It's not meant for us to feel like a victim. It's not meant for them to be a villain. Like was said earlier, it's just nature. As we all have our own life experiences, and we will attract and repulse from those experiences. And we can do that with discernment and not judgment. John London, crazy out there, what some people will believe and defend. Ain't no one saying defending child poverty or murder or war. No. No, they are not. They are not. Yeah, try going to music recitals or reading groups, Brad. Church if you have to. Yes, this is how you find compatible people, is that in knowing the energy and what you say and how you feel is an expression of that whole is your energy in this quantum field. Science is real, y'all. Science is real. And so attraction, repulsion, light and day, hot and cold, these are things that we have to have in this life. And so when we can take this process to why do I feel this way? Where did my trust get skewed, rather than saying what's wrong with them? Why don't they accept me? Da 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 da. It's like, no, we process ourselves. Why did I want to be with somebody who said these kind of things to me? Why did I want to be with somebody who left me out of their life? Why did I want to be with somebody who lied to me? These things, that's what destroys our trust, right? We can't grow by projecting a villain mindset on them. We will for a while, maybe. I'm not saying we ain't human, and that in the first 2 weeks we're not going to be saying, because we will the first 2 weeks when we're hurt and we're raw and we're in pain. But that's not going to help you grow. That's not going to help you get what you want. And that's why we continue to attract the same things if we don't go through the process and say to ourselves, and not beating ourselves up. This is having a compassionate talk with ourselves like we are a friend. Is why do I want to choose someone who lies to me? Why do I want to choose somebody who cheats on me? Why do I want to choose somebody who does this? When we put all our dependence on somebody in the beginning of a relationship and don't listen to what they say, and then blame them later because they're telling us. We know. And that's getting in with our intuition instead of the expectation. But some people have the expectation that somebody's going to cheat on them, so they're watching them, they're stalking them, and they're coming with that energy. So when they're coming with that energy, that person may feel the pressure. From what I've heard from people who did cheat, is that they got accused of it, so they did it anyway, which may be a cop-out, might not. I'm not, this is a general group here. So I'm not going there right now. I think that they cheat because they had that capacity to anyway. If the right thing would have been to say, you know what, I can't handle your jealousy. That's what I do. It's like, I can't handle your jealousy. I have to have, I need to be able to breathe. That's the healthy way. That's cheating is not the healthy way, but that happens. We don't know till we know. And there's good ones out there, just pursue other interest in the meantime. Yes. After your passing, what do you mean, Pastor Brad? Let me catch up on these comments. Epic. While you chase the ball, you shall forever be a good boy. So, SG, do you think our thoughts can be influenced by the quality of questions we ask ourselves? Absolutely. If that's true, then the quality of the internal questioning shapes reality. Absolutely. Before I started therapy and going to a therapist and a coach myself, I was afraid for people to ask me questions. I was afraid I didn't know the answers, because guess what? I didn't know the answers. So I had to learn and get comfortable with other people asking me without me getting offended. Because sometimes when people ask me questions, when I was afraid of being asked questions, I was defensive. I don't know if anybody else out there has ever been like that, but I was defensive. I was afraid of the questions they would ask, so I would be ready to defend and think that they were trying to make me feel stupid, even though they weren't trying to make me feel stupid. They were just asking me questions. And we do that with people in cars. Y'all may think that's crazy, but we do that with people in cars. Sometimes we decide that they want to take over the road and that they've got this dialogue going on. So that's what we call making shit up in here. John London. I feel sorry for those that chase and not attract, because attractive to what? Yes, exactly, to what you want. And that's important. That's part of that process, and is deciding what you want, because most people are chasing and attracting from what they don't want. They're looking for something and they haven't decided what they're looking for. And then when they get it, they don't know what to do with it if they're like I used to be. Thank you, Elo. I appreciate that. Good morning, Jeremy Johnson. Mescaline carbonate coffee espresso. I love me some coffee too. Luke, it's good to see you here. You are still here. Well, thank you. I'm glad you got to join this morning. So why can't it be da da da? It's just an accident, bro. Epic clock tenders. You're on the first and final warning. Epic will tell you. Right? Thanks, Epic. Bachelor Brad. I'll say it again. The majority of single women my age are on dating sites. I have many years of experience. It doesn't matter where you meet them. If they're single. I'm not on a dating site. I don't know how old you are, but I'm not on a dating site. But, I'm wanting to attract compatibility. When I did get on a dating site, I tried it. I can't, just naysay. I tried it, but I was not compatible with that's where most of the people were like, so if we connect, do you think you might want to be intimate? And if they're thinking about that, not even knowing me through a computer, I'm like, because I like clean, y'all. I like clean. And people that are that needy of that kind of thing, that makes me think, no, that's just me. That's just not compatible with me. So, Bachelor Brad, good luck with that, Binod. And I'm not saying that you're like that. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that you can't meet somebody on a dating site, but I think you need a paid dating site if you want to meet somebody of quality. Maybe. God bless the West. Happy birthday. Whose birthday it is? Hey, Epic. Luke, we don't listen to learn. We listen to reply. Yes, we do. A lot of people do that. I used to do that too because I wanted to be accepted, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We don't say, I'm trying to be accepted, so I'm not really listening to what they're saying. I want to be accepted, so I need to say something profound. I need to be seen, right? We don't say that, but that's what it is. You're here to troll you, Nork? It's not the place to troll. Thank you for letting us know. John London, I can't imagine someone mentioning that before even meeting face to face. I know, right? That's oof. But they've done it. They do it on there. They want something casual. Casual. I'm not your casual kind of person. And that's what I see a lot of on those dating sites. And that's not going to develop compatibility when you're jumping into things like that. And so, yeah. Yeah, Nork, I've told a lot of embarrassing stories, but we're going to talk about now is your picker broke. So we talked about that compatibility that we need to have with ourselves to learn to process. What do I want? When somebody tells us who they are, believe them. We hear that saying, but it's the truth. If somebody lies to you once, they're going to lie to you again. If they cheat on you once, they're going to cheat on you again, unless you both enter some kind of coaching or therapy. Because nothing changes if nothing changes. And it has to be a change. Hi, Wash, you're right. Yeah, Nork, you said the word casual, the best I've ever heard. When it comes to dating or meeting a person, it's just disgusting. It's gross. It absolutely is. It is. I'm thinking, and some of those, I'm like, really? You don't have that much time. You're going to need somebody to take care of you. What are you talking about, casual? You need a nurse. No, I'm kidding. Shush. Be nod. When you realize you don't need to seek attention and focus on your own thing, you slowly get the power. People start talking behind your back, and that means, yes, that's un-F-withable, right? That's un-F-withable. Is that, and because there's good, let them talk. Let them talk. So your picker isn't broken. So when people say my picker's broken, like, John London said, it's self-depreciated. It's not good. That's not saying true. Even the way they said that leaves a bad taste in the mouth. It's a dating site, not that kind. I know, right? That's why I said maybe on the paying dating sites, because that was on Bumble. And I was only on it for a short amount of time because I thought, I'll try this because my friend was on it. She got stood up on dates. She got stood up for coffee dates, and this kind of thing. And that's not cool. That's just not cool. So I think that when we meet people and we actually see their face eye to eye, that they're less likely to mess with you. Nork. Besides that, I don't want the whole ecosystem of the world from the movie Avatar growing on me. I hear you. It's because that kind of thing is, what we learn in our older, as we mature, is that is an exchange of energy. Am I just trying to let somebody's ego enter me, or intimacy? That's not intimacy. So am I just trying to have something going on with somebody's ego? And that's not, no. Shalajaran. Yes. Good morning, George. It's good to see you again too. The energy is a lot more easy to free from, and it is. It's an exchange from energy when we allow that, and it's going to be like, yeah. All right. Thank you, Epic. I appreciate you. So, the brain isn't asking what is healthy. It's asking, what have I survived before? And the nervous system makes mistakes familiar for safety. Luke, if you want someone quality, of quality, be quality. Exactly. Focus on yourself first. Get your act together. Quality attracts quality. Absolutely. And you might have to wait a while. Because quality is worth waiting for. Instant gratification, you can find instant gratification on every corner, John London, 100% degree, sex should be a spiritual energy exchange. Exactly. And, compatibility plays a part, is knowing who you're being intimate with, Exactly, I agree too. Nork, have you ever heard that song that says, I wish I knew you when you were young? I don't know when I was young. I don't know. There's one that I've heard lately that says, it's something, what is that song? And I think it's a beautiful song. It's something like that. I'll have to say it in the next live, because it plays in my playlist. I didn't really pick it, but it's like, it says too late. So it's something about too late. And I don't know what's going on with that story, but it just sounds pretty. It sounds heartfelt, so I don't know what too late means, if he didn't get mature for her until too late, or what, because it's a guy singing it. So I don't know. But anyway, the nervous system makes familiar, our nervous system, that's how sometimes we choose unconsciously, is through the nervous system. And so we'll choose what feels familiar. It's not that your picker's broke, it's just that you have to change what you feel familiar with. And that requires healing sometimes, as we've all probably been heartbroken up in here. But if we were willing to take a look at ourselves, like I heard so many of you do, I don't like the generalization of like Epic was saying earlier, of men and women, because men have been hurt and women have been hurt too. So there's not just one sex being hurt up in here. We've all been hurt. And so it's understanding those commonalities that also in communication help us to know if we're compatible, rather than just seeing somebody and deciding I've got to have them. Dr. Hook has a few good tunes, If You're Lovesick. I remember Dr. Hook. I haven't heard Dr. Hook in a long time. John London, my picker doesn't work if the energy feels off. If the other soul isn't in that same mind, connection really makes or breaks it for me. Absolutely. And that's person, right? Because it's going to be personal. It's hard to be personal, through trying to connect there. So yeah, it's the energy. When you touch somebody, I love to touch people. I'm not one of these people afraid to touch people. I'll be hugging on people and touching people because I get to sense that energy. I do that with Reiki healing. It helped me a great deal to do the Reiki. It helped calm my central nervous system, my autonomic system. It's like somebody was talking about, the other day, is that, the automatic, the automatic is the autonomic. Joseph Leon, hello. So what have I survived before? That's part of that processing. So when something feels familiar, when we've been hurt before and it feels familiar, if we can decide, when did this feel familiar before? When I'm working with my clients, it's like, when did you feel this way before? Because if somebody's feeling neglected today, They probably felt neglected in the past so that they know what this feeling looks like. So they're trying to not feel neglected, right? So they're making unconscious choices to not try to feel neglected with familiar experiences. Good Lord, we got some wannabe suitors tonight. Get next up on if you're not. That's funny. Good Lord. Yeah, they can't. Yeah. So we can explain childhood, beliefs, identity, comfort zone, compatibility patterns, and relationship choices. Then say, healing doesn't give you a new picker. Healing changes what feels compatible. That's the thing. Healing changes what feels compatible, and that's profound and completely aligned when we understand that healing is a part of this. Good morning, Pammy. How are you? Hello, KB Swart. So we're deep diving into is your picker broke, Pam. And so this is, the thing is a lot of people say they're afraid of love. So are you afraid of love and claim that your picker is broke? And are you okay with resolving to that? Now, just because we're single doesn't mean that we say our picker's broke or that we're resolving to anything. Because as I said, I'm single and I just am not going out of the house unless somebody has something interesting to say to draw me out of the house. I don't come out of the house very easily. I have to have a cup of coffee. Usually I have to be bribed out of my house with a cup of coffee or something like that. And then, that's just depending. So are you okay with resolving to your picker being broke? And so it's quite okay to not want to be in a relationship. So this is more than that, about more than not wanting to be in a relationship. We talked Monday night about our compatibility with ourselves. We extended this to relationships that are possibly family, work, friends, and partners. Because it's not just compatibility with those things. Like I said, I had a job before that I later became uncompatible with. So it's okay to change our minds sometimes. There's been some good stuff in the chat, so too. There's been some people offer some, like-minded, that have been really good. Some good stuffs. So, but yeah, I guess you probably caught them before I saw them, Epic. So thank you. So we talked Monday night about our compatibility with ourselves. We extended that into those relationships of work, partnerships, family, because we had people in here that their family was not supportive. And I talked about how sometimes many of us have not received support our whole life. The family of origin maybe didn't know what the support was, what support looked like, how to support, because they come from that place of fear. Oh yeah, so we caught you at a good hour, John London. It's good to be inside, isn't it? In front of the computer, because it's hot out there. And I was looking at those fires this morning. They're still going, so. 1 a.m. Thank you for staying in here and handling this at 1 a.m. in the morning, Epic. So there's some of us, though, whether now or in the past, that have had and will have conflict with family members, as we touched on that the other night. This may cause fear and lack of trust, and trust is a necessary component for any relationship. And so when I said, is our compatibility with ourselves, we have to have trust ourselves. So I like to think that we are developing our trust muscles. I honestly think we're developing our trust muscles for ourselves as long as we have a breath. As long as we have a breath. As long as we're breathing, even when we try something new, we're having to trust, right? Even at the restaurant, when we try, that's big for me because I like to eat the same thing when I go to the restaurant. So if I try something new, it takes the amount of trust for me to try it. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't eat at the restaurant very much. I eat at home most of the time. So we're developing trust muscles. Each time we try something new, it gives us an opportunity to trust ourselves. Learning who or what we're compatible with is certainly an effort in trust. Making sure that we're compatible with ourselves and not compromising ourselves is super important because that has led many of us to believe that our picker is broke. Epic. A lot of people are interested in arts and crafts on a secret quest for smooches. Do what you love, people, and the right one will show up. Absolutely. Absolutely. I truly believe that. When one of my clients I worked with, she was in Houston, Texas. She was having surgery. And so she was getting ready for surgery, and it was something about her body, her breast. She wasn't happy with her breast, so she was having something done here. And so anytime she was, but she met this man. She met this man, she told me about, and he was really awesome through her surgery, and he was supportive. She said she met him coming out of a Lululemon store. She saw him when she was walking, because I like to know how people meet people. And she said that she was starting to walk in the Lululemon store for her workout clothes, and it was in a shopping center. So he was walking, and he said hello to her. She said hello. She went in the Lululemon store, and she come back out, and he was waiting, and he asked her, to have lunch. And so she went to lunch with him, and they ended up in a relationship. When they were intimate, she never took her shirt off, hence why I'm bringing this up about why her surgery was what it was. And he was okay with it. And then when she wanted to have surgery, he was okay with it. And so that is what intimacy is about. It's not about just a conquest. It's about support and love, Thank you, Nafala. And so that's what Epic was saying about people of like-minded. So he sees a woman going in Lululemon, and he's like attracted to a woman going into Lululemon. So the picker is connected to our choices, and we have the capacity to make different choices. We first must begin by not choosing to do the same thing, expecting different results. Even when I'm working with somebody in sobriety, or to be clean. I had somebody, sometimes I'll have somebody who says, well, they want to be clean, but then they did a drug that 2 days ago or a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And it's like, well, then you're not in alignment, because if you want to be clean, but yet you do a drug, then that's not alignment. And so not staying aligned with the choices, right? 008, smooth, but not quite it. Ex-secret agent. Y'all are funny. I love y'all. All right. I don't know what you're talking about, Leroy. I hope that you'll stay and listen to the topic, because Epic would be putting you out because I don't. It also behooves one to disconnect the picker from. That's right. That's right. Thank you, Epic. Thank you. Absolutely. Thinking with this one instead of the other. Okay, so it's not so cut and dry, because we have to be willing to let go of blame, as we talked about last week in self-accountability. We can acknowledge things that have happened and the wound that it caused, and move past the blame. So when we realize walking through it gives us the power through developing our strength and trust muscles, learning to trust ourselves to make different choices, even if it's choosing ourselves, learning to choose ourselves, not give all of our power away to somebody else. Because then we're going to call them a victim later, a villain later, if we give all of our power to somebody else. We can't let them be our superpower, because they're going to be the villain. The hubby and I went to Sydney. He climbed the coat hanger bridge. You get to do some amazing adventures. So when we've chosen people or establishments that have tested our belief systems and maybe our values, we never clearly stated even to ourselves. We might not have even stated our values or our beliefs to ourselves. And we might have stated it to them, and they just continued to do what they did, like, my last job. I said I'm not staying in this. And when I say I'm not doing something, I'm not compromising myself. I was willing to negotiate, but I'm not going to compromise. Check it. Okay. So it's important to know our values, or we may compromise ours if they do not have strength. If they're being claimed in the beginning, they may be claimed in the end. If they're not being claimed in the beginning, they may be claimed in the end. Hi, Crasadix. Happy birthday to you. I'm so glad you subbed. Thank you so much for subbing. And any of y'all, if you feel like this content resonates with you, I think most of us are subbed here, but if there's somebody here who hasn't subbed, if this resonates with you, please consider subbing. if they're being claimed in the beginning, if they're not being claimed in the beginning, they may be claimed in the end when the hurt feels grave, right? It feels grave if we don't claim, if we don't know our values in the beginning, if we don't, know our beliefs in the beginning, or if we compromise those, it will feel grave. There will be some grief to that. So we may ignore or dismiss our values in the context of conversation, meaning not listening to their words or our own, even if we speak them at all. Because sometimes we just listen and we just buy into the whole thing that they tell us who they are in the beginning. But then when their words and actions don't match, then we get mad later and we say actions speak louder than words. Well, listen in the beginning. Listen in the beginning. Are you going to leave me, Epic, or do you have to go now? I understand it's been a long time. We've been here an hour, and I'm just now getting into the picker part. So I hope that if you're leaving, you'll have a good day. It's been a good chat. Oh, yeah. I know, right? Hopefully. But I do appreciate all of you, you have been here staying in the chat. So I appreciate that so much, all of you who stayed, because I love the interaction with y'all. And yeah. So I'll stay as long as there's some interaction, as long as there's one person I could help here, and sometimes people come on later, and sometimes like on Monday nights I have to get off so I can go and meditate. Oh, okay. Shame, true, but not the place or the time. Thanks, Epic. So family may reinforce the belief system that we don't know what we are doing. Because sometimes family will tell you, anytime you say what you want or you need or you think, then they'll be like, oh, really? How do you know this? Blah, 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 blah. And they may be having you second guess yourself. And the thing is when we get in our grown bodies, we get to have our grown experiences. And we have to grow ourselves up sometimes, because we may have family that's always going to treat us like we're less than or what have you. And that's them. Thank you. Thank you. Let me write that down too, so I can look that up. Nosferatu. Okay. I get to learn so much from y'all. So this may be the origin of the lack of the trust is with the family. Ask when they're having us second guess our choices and everything else, or bringing up to us when we've done something wrong over and over. That's not helpful, and that's not supportive. So that's why I say sometimes people have never received support and don't know what it looks like, and they're afraid. Robert Eggers is a great director, man. Great stuff. Well, I'm going to look it up. Yeah, Pammy's a few hours behind me. So some folks have not had support their whole life, and this may push their belief system that they're not enough, and they may delusionally accept crumbs after good treatment. I know I've accepted crumbs after good treatment. Start with the witch Stacy, the Bruja. I did watch, I watched Mayfair Witches. Okay, let me look up witch. I just watched Mayfair Witches. I'm waiting on the new season. So healing this is just as important, that family of origin. That's where a lot of it starts, these refeelings is important, so that we can think that our worth and identity is tied to that, that we're not important enough or smart enough. We may have accepted that. Darth Vader. Hello, Darth Vader. So we're talking about compatibility, Darth Vader. You're welcome to stay. So the reality is that our soul knows our worth, and the need to dig the old tapes off of it and to keep is the key to our freedom. Whether you choose to or care to be in a relationship of a partner level, that's still your key to your freedom, of knowing what you're compatible with. If you're compatible with yourself, that means comfortable in your own skin from within. Knowing that when I am in a partnership, if I like this and they don't, and it's a deal breaker, because sometimes there's deal breakers, and it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means that this is something that I'm not going to do. If a person, I probably won't watch sports with somebody, You know, I'm probably not going to buy the jersey and watch sports with somebody and eat the junk food. That's probably not something I'm going to do. So somebody who would want a woman that does that isn't going to be compatible with me. And they would have to say to themselves, do I want somebody who doesn't want to sit and watch sports with me? You know? So the reality is that our soul knows our worth, and the need to dig the old tapes off is the key to freedom, whether you choose to or care to be in a relationship in a partner level. So even at work, what am I choosing? What am I choosing? I've stated before, I worked with some clients that they, you know, she said that her that's beautiful, Grinch. She said that her workmates, some people she worked with, she said they want to go get Botox and go shopping, and they just leave us out. And I said, well, do you want to go get Botox and go shopping? She's like, no, but it would be nice to ask. And I'm like, why? Why do you want to be asked to go do that? Why are you? So healing the wound of why she's, see, the feeling of being left out wasn't just isolated to the people at work. It was a feeling of being left out in middle school. It was a feeling of being left out prior. So that was what we needed to heal, because as long as we keep looking to be left out, we're going to keep being left out, like was mentioned earlier. That's right. That's right. Compatibility. Exactly, Darth Vader. John London. True horses for courses for whatever floats your boat. We say in England. We say whatever floats your boat too over in Texas. Yeah. Horses for courses is new though. So I learned something too there. Epic. This is why I buy my movies on disc. I like to choose what I spend my time on. Same with women. Same with anything. Yes. Understanding that you have that choice, that's empowering, you know, doing things with our choice of what we want to do. And it's, I know it is a good saying, isn't it? I hadn't heard that one before. So, you know, then we're going to get what we want when we know what we want to choose, and we're not going to feel compromised. Because sometimes, like in my old days, I would have sat and watched a game with people, and it might be a good idea. I might watch one game with somebody. I'm not that, you know, but I'm not going to do that. That's not my interest. My interest is more like getting outside rather than sitting in front of the TV watching a sports game or watching a good flick, you know. But I want something that touches my soul, usually, because our souls are going to be, our soul is, I got a lot, never mind. Anyway, rules and boundaries differ. So rules can be rigid and push people out and away. They may feel more institutional. Anyone here ever felt that in a relationship it was institutional? Epic. The mind is two parts, the one that knows and the one that decides. If it comes to mind, pursue it. Yes, because there's a reason. Darth Vader. If you have the same interest with someone, you should try to be friends or join clubs. That's a good idea. Epic. If you're deciding based off familiarity, right. Because I think that life is meant to be lived. And if that's how people get in those ruts, is that familiarity. It gets in ruts. So, you know, but some people may be attracted to a rut. That may be what they're attracted to. They may be comfortable their whole life in a rut. Not sure about institutional, but definitely transactional. Yes. It might have been, I've seen them transactional and institutional, to where, like, you know, somebody trying to tell me what to do, you know, like, why are you mopping with hot water? And it's like, well, because I mop with hot water. And then they're like, I never mop with hot water. And I'm like, well, you're not mopping, I'm mopping. So that's kind of institutional to me, when somebody thinks that they need to be telling you how to do things like that. So, yeah, that's not for me. Random question. Billie Eilish. Yes. I'm not totally familiar with her, but yeah. Not sure. Yeah. So, I have at work and at home, I have felt institutionalized, like everything was so rigid, and that there was no room for thoughts, no room for ideas. It was just robotic. Unfortunately, my reality with a couple of people right now, transactional. Yeah, yeah, that's hard. It's really hard. I know, right? I've heard a little of it, but yeah. So loving boundaries are attractive. So that's the difference between rules. Loving boundaries are attractive. Rules can be rigid and rules can repulse, but loving boundaries can be attractive because when I know somebody's boundaries, then I know if I'm compatible or not. If they don't have boundaries, then they're eventually going to be resentful because they're going to blame me if they don't have boundaries. Where if we have boundaries, we're less likely to blame. So loving boundaries tell people who I am, what I like and what I don't like, and actually try to challenge it every time the institutional side of things. I know the rules and all of this, it's like, oh, I don't do well with rules because I'm a person. Challenges are good or bad. Challenges are good and they're bad. They're mostly good though. I live stream on Mondays and Fridays in the evening time at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I live stream on Wednesday mornings and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. So, loving boundaries are attractive and create trust. They're connected to our values. And so, here's some of the values we can acknowledge, as in a lot of homes, values weren't even discussed. People didn't talk about values. And sometimes they overdid the values. So you have to accord the values to you. Instead of saying, what are my values? How do I know this value is important to me? Depends on if they're your challenges to undertake or challenges for the sake of it is not healthy. Exactly. And see, that's the thing, is what I like to say is that everything's good until it's not, and everything's bad until it's not. Because some of my rewards, they were great in the beginning, but then they turned bad later, because sometimes we can become a prisoner of our reward system. And so it's very important to be conscious, like was said earlier, about what our reward systems are, because this is where a lot of addictions fall in. Like I said, I'm a mindset coach, life coach with addiction recovery, codependency, and grief. And so being able to know life is equal parts of strife and respite. It's supposed to be, in all the different faiths, they talk about how to overcome things, right? No matter what faith people listen to, all walks of life, we're all going to be overcoming things. And that can be part of our developing compatibility, because if we don't overcome, we stay in this victim mindset, which isn't really attractive, right? Or some people are attracted, and that's how they learn to be attracted. I talked about that a few weeks ago, about how the victim mentality. Okay, thanks, Neto. Life is equal parts. It sure is, of strife and respite. So, values that build compatibility, when we know what our values are. Before we can know whether we're compatible, with another person, compatible with another person, workplace friendships, or even our belief systems, we first need to understand what matters to us. Many of us never asked about our values. We were never asked about our values. So we were taught rules. Y'all. Expectations, responsibilities, and sometimes survival. I know. I hear you, Epic. Exactly. It's the same thing. Same thing. And he never subs. Y'all, he never really does sub, because I can see if people sub or not afterwards. He doesn't sub. So we're not worried. Randall, I'm good. How are you? Above them all production. Why you won't take my questions? I apologize. Above all production. Hello, lady. I have a serious question. Well, you didn't ask the question yet, and I hope that it's on topic, okay? So values become our internal compass. They guide our decisions when life becomes uncertain and help us to recognize when we're living in alignment. So when we've slowly drifted away from ourselves. So trust is a value. Trust in ourselves is a value. So trust is more than believing someone else won't hurt you. Trust begins by believing you will still listen to yourself when something doesn't feel right. That's right, Grinch. It grows every time you honor your intuition, keep a promise to yourself, or make a choice that reflects your values instead of your fears. All right, Randall, we're on topic. You're about to go in timeout if we're not talking about these kind of things. Roro. Okay, congratulations. All right, without self-trust, we often place the responsibility for our safety in someone else's hands. So, do I trust my own judgment and reflection? What experiences have strengthened or weakened that trust? And am I waiting for someone else to tell me what I already know? You know, do you have to have validation from somebody else that doesn't, some people take a poll of 10 people if they're making the right decision. You only really need that one good friend that has your back, your best interest, not necessarily a co-signer, because all of us have our mayhem and things. All of us need that person in our life that's the voice of reason. I'm a Leo. My best friend is a Capricorn. She keeps me grounded because I can come up with these ideas that are like, oh, and so she's like, okay, she's a lawyer and a Capricorn. So she keeps me in alignment, with myself because I can come up with things and she has she's figured it out. I'm just creating. I'm a creative type and she's like the grounded version. So I'll create things and she's grounded. She knows the plan. So honesty isn't only about telling the truth. Honesty is one of our values, right? That's very important. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who does reels on YouTube about relationships and the honesty part. And he does the narcissist and the codependent, about why their relationship is going to be so good. I forget his name. I think it might be like Randall or something. I can't remember his name. But he does some really good skits on what people would really be saying if their insecurities were speaking for them instead of them trying to be flattering with their words. So honesty is about being truthful with yourself. Asking yourself, do I want to be in a relationship rather than, a lot of times people think, I know in our youth sometimes when we're naive, we may think I did something wrong is why this person cheated on me. Well, they lied to me because of this, or they'll make an excuse for somebody treating them poorly. You're not being honest with yourself. No. We'll be lying to ourselves. So getting honest with ourselves is saying, do I want to be? Is this what's for me? I have the memory of an elephant. So it's about being truthful with yourself. Sometimes we know something isn't working long before we're willing to admit it. That's compromising ourselves, y'all. So we explain it away, minimize it, or hope it will change because facing the truth feels uncomfortable. Honesty creates freedom because it allows us to work with reality instead of wishful thinking. I know a lot of people will say in relationships, it was a waste of my time. Well, if you didn't learn anything from it, it was a waste of your time. That's the thing, is if you didn't learn anything from it, it was a waste of your time. So I'm not saying that's not true. But if we're willing to learn from it, it can be a catalyst for our growth. Hello, Dr. Mark. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Dr. Mark. I come on Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I come on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've got to subscribe because I spelled his name wrong. Let me, Mark, Massare 7786. I want to see these videos because Pam liked them too. So I gotta get in here. I don't know if I can subscribe while I'm on here is the thing, because I'm still learning to navigate and I'm afraid I'll lose y'all. So what was I saying? Okay, anyway, I'll just stick with this is why I have notes, y'all, because I'll start saying something and forget what I was talking about when I get distracted here. This is why I have to have a Capricorn best friend to keep me grounded. So honesty creates freedom because it allows us to work with reality instead of wishful thinking. So the reflection is where am I avoiding a truth because I'm afraid of what it might require of me? And then also, am I as honest with myself as I expect others to be with me? That's a process. That's, changing our internal dialogue. Thank you, Pammy. Ah, well, thank you, Dr. Mark. So now we're talking about the values that people may not even claim for themselves. And if they know their values when they walk into a relationship, whether it's family, we talked about family, and our values are very important. Our values can be different from our family's values because sometimes we grew up in families that just didn't have very good or clear values. They had expectations. And expectations are, more guided with rules, and values are more guided with boundaries. So integrity, what am I going to do with, and even having the boundaries with ourselves. So integrity is when your actions and your values walk in the same direction. That's what integrity is, when you walk the walk and talk the talk. So many of us know what we believe, yet our choices don't always reflect those beliefs. Mine used to not reflect my beliefs either. So that doesn't make us failures. It simply invites us to ask why. So integrity builds self-respect because when we begin trusting ourselves to live what we say matters. So when we say our picker's broken, that's how this all started today, is am I saying my picker's broken? Am I self-depreciating myself? Is that a valuable part of myself? Is realizing that we have value. You were born with value. You were born worthy. So the reflection to the value of integrity is do my daily choices reflect what is important? Daily. If I don't want to drink today, am I making a choice not to drink today? Because we only have to do these things one day at a time. If I'm not wanting to eat something that's bad for me today, making that choice, making that decision, and staying in alignment with it. Because what I want is to be healthy, whatever that looks like. So if I want to be healthy, what does that call for me to do? Am I staying in integrity with that? I'm going to have a piece of cake every once in a while, but I'm not eating cake once a week even. Not once a day. I don't have to have dessert every day. And when I do, sometimes I like a sweet treat after a meal, and I have pineapple. Pineapple is so good for you. And if you watch Pammy, Monjuro Journey with Pam, she'll let you know that pineapple is good for you. I know, right, Pam? Because, we've seen what happens when I touch the camera. Thank you, Francho. So respect is part of our values. And a lot of people demand respect. You might have grown up in a family that demanded respect. So that respect, what we consider respect, may be skewed because it may look like rules, because rules used to look like respect, following the rules. But respect in ourselves, what's respect for ourselves? So if that's our, part of our values, if we want respect, it's not a demand. Respect is how we walk into a room. Most people respect me because the energy when I walk into a place. There's nobody messing with me when I walk into a place. I don't have a problem. I was at a club one time. I went by myself to see this band, and there was this joker coming over that was drinking. He was drunk, and he was trying to talk to me and trying to get me to dance with him and stuff. And this lady from another table was watching, and she's like, I was watching you to see if, if you're going to need my help. And she said, but I saw you handled it all yourself because I just am firm. It's just like, no. And I stay firm. I don't feel bad about telling somebody no. I don't. So I respect myself. That's respecting myself, is knowing what I want. And I wasn't trying to dance with a drunk person. So respect begins long before someone else gives it to us. It begins when we recognize that our thoughts, feelings, time, energy have value, that they have value. What do I want to do? Am I going to be compromised? Respecting ourselves keeps us from being compromised. So when we don't respect ourselves, we often tolerate situations that ask us to abandon parts of ourselves just to belong. Respect says, I matter too. Yeah. And so in reflection, do I treat myself with the same respect that I offer others? Have I confused people pleasing with kindness? Accountability. Accountability is a value. We talked about accountability last week. Epic. Most people never gain respect because they're afraid of being unpleasant. Being firm with people is an expected behavior. Yeah. Yeah. Working with people, a lot of times when we talk about boundaries, they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable with boundaries because I don't want somebody to feel rejected. And they don't realize because they don't know about projection yet, because we don't know what we don't know until we do. And that's projection, because they'll tell me, because I know what rejection feels like. 90 degrees and raining today. Well, I hope it will put those fires out in other places. I hope the rain goes to the fires. So, but yeah, so when they tell me that, but the thing is underlying, they're also still afraid of being rejected if they set a boundary. Does that make sense? No, Yanark, I can see you now. I'm glad that you're back. Thank you. Epic. If you don't set boundaries with a quality person, they can never trust you fully. Right. Right. No, Yanark, I see you. You're back. What? I hope you're going to not get timed out again. Please stay on topic. We're talking about accountability right now. So accountability is a value, and it can be your value, accountability. And accountability isn't blame, it's ownership. So blame keeps us looking backward. We don't want to look backward. We're not going that way. The only way we look backward is if we are trying to heal something in our past, only if it's going to be useful. It's not to replay an old tape and to decide that this is who we are, because you're not who you were. I'm not who I was 10 years ago. I'm not who I was 20 years ago. And if we still feel like we're that same person, we're hitting P and repeat on the tape. But the real thing is you're evolving whether you know it or not, because your cells are evolving. Your soul is evolving or not. And so that's why I say that when I'm working with healing, it's working with ourselves, cells. So it's SELVES, it's cells, CELLS, and then our souls, SOULS. So that's what we're healing when we work on healing, because when you change your thoughts, you change your framework. Dr. Mark, sometimes it's a little difficult to respect other people because of their behavior, but when you respect yourself by your own behavior, then it becomes easier to accept other people. Absolutely, absolutely. Because we do live in a world of attraction and repulsion. So it's normal and natural that we will be attracted to some people, and that sometimes people will be repulsed from us, and that's okay. It's okay. Not everybody has to like me. My energy isn't for everybody, and I'm not going to waste my energy where it's not needed. So, all right, Nort, keep on. You're going to get timed out again, unless he really is. So it's ownership. Accountability isn't blame, it's ownership. Blame keeps us looking backward. Accountability helps to move us forward. What do I want? Not what do I feel I deserve from the past. Because you do deserve things, but not from the past, because we're always evolving. So what I deserve today is different than what I felt I deserved 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it allows us to acknowledge our experiences without allowing those experiences to define every future choice. So in reflection, am I willing to own my choices without carrying shame? And what can I learn instead of who can I blame? Right? I don't really necessarily believe in twin flame connections, I know that it's a big thing, and there's been a time when I might have considered that, but I really don't believe in that now, because I think that twin flame gets I think twin flame, a lot of people will accept poor behavior from other people, because a lot of times people say with a twin flame that that person is supposed to challenge you. And sometimes you get more challenges than support when you believe in a twin flame. Anybody here had that kind of thing too? Because that's what I've seen with twin flames. Well, you just sleep without your phone. Dr. Mark, epic, say something intelligent next and you can stay. Right? Dr. Mark, thank you, Manjaro, simply said, you can't let other people and their lack of gratitude or attitude erode who you are. Because that's not who you are. That's who they are. Exactly. I didn't get to see Pammy's comment, but yeah. So, all right. So I'm not answering that. If you're not on topic, I'm not going to answer. Compassion. Compassion allows us to recognize that every person, including ourselves, is learning through life. That doesn't mean excusing them and accepting poor behavior. Having compassion, we can have compassion and be kind rather than judge somebody. We don't need to hurt them, but we also don't need to subject ourselves to people who are committed not to growing. If you're a person who wants to grow, you're wasting your time. If somebody, not everybody who needs help wants help. Sometimes they just want a helping hand, to fix a problem. But that's where you step into codependency, is if you become a fixer, because that's not empowering you or them. So compassion doesn't excuse harmful behavior. It simply allows us to respond with understanding instead of constant judgment. So true compassion includes ourselves. Many people extend grace to everyone except the person in the mirror. So epic. Twin flame is a popular delusion for people who are easily obsessed and lacking personal development. Absolutely, and it's not compatibility. It's not conscious compatibility. So people end up in these twin flames sometimes, and thinking that that's their person, and it may not be their person. They're not thinking twin flame and compatibility are not the same thing. Yeah. Well, it's definitely real and it's definitely challenging, and all I wanted to share was the song that came to me during the experience. You can share the song, just a flavor of destiny, etc., right? It was a realization when I needed to get my eyes open. Okay. Thanks, Tenor Stacy is giving a message. Thank you. I think she meant you, Nork. I didn't say you were being harmful. Oh, that's very good that you met somebody but I hope you'll be compatible. I hope this talk on compatibility will help you. So compassion doesn't excuse harmful behavior. It simply allows us to respond with understanding instead of constant judgment. True compassion includes ourselves. Many people extend grace to everyone else except the person in the mirror. So reflection. Is my inner voice compassionate or critical? See, this is where a lot of people that is saying their picker is broken, that could be critical. When I hear that, I think that it's critical, because it's just like, I'm just choosing to be. Thank you, Epic. So it's like, is my inner voice compassionate or critical? So are you saying nice things to yourself? Because what we do is we project those. If we're saying nasty things to ourselves, we project that other people are saying that about us. But if we're saying nice things to ourselves, we see what other people are saying that's nice about us. Because there's people talking nice about you just as much as people are talking bad about you. Because people will talk. So would I speak to someone else? I love the way I speak to myself. That's another question. So curiosity is a value also. So curiosity keeps us learning instead of assuming. We talked about assumptions last week, right? So when curiosity disappears, assumptions often take its place. That's making stories up. Thank you, Pammy. Healthy relationships grow because people stay interested in understanding and not proving something. It's not the ego running the show. The ego's linked to your central nervous system, that one that's trying to anticipate and strategize the next moves. That's right, Epic. I can help mend your mind, but if you lose a limb, you should seek professional help. Exactly. So curiosity also asks us to explore ourselves with openness instead of criticisms. Okay, thank you, Yonoric. Gyro, I don't know. I help people. Some people would say the things that I do as a healer, but I don't claim to be a healer. I do not, because people have to be a participant. So I believe everyone has the capacity to be a healer. I don't claim that I'm a soul healer, but I could be a soul healer, SOUL healer. But you know, but the thing is that I help people change their thoughts and perspectives. That's what I do. But I also do Reiki work with people too, and different types of holistic work with people. But the people have to be able and willing to heal themselves for me to be able to help there. So I'm just a catalyst. Like people who we don't like in our lives can be catalysts for our growth. I'm also a catalyst in the healing, but I don't claim to be a healer. So curiosity also asks us to explore ourselves with openness instead of criticism. So in reflection, am I asking questions or making assumptions? And when was the last time I became curious about my own reactions instead of judging them? So boundaries are also a value. Okay, thank you, York. So boundaries aren't walls. They aren't punishment and they aren't rejection. Boundaries are simply communicate what allows us to remain honest, respectful, and emotionally healthy. We need boundaries, y'all. I know, Epic, I know. People get to know us if we have boundaries. Because if we don't have boundaries, then we may get upset with people for doing things that aren't pleasing to us. And it might be small things, but we have to let people know who we are. And boundaries let people know it's not a rule. It's like, I'm not going to do, it can be simple boundaries. It's not compromising. Boundaries keep you from compromising yourself, but it's not meant for protection. See, rules, people create a lot of rules to try to protect themselves, and rules and demanding respect. We have respect, but respect is given with boundaries. That's how we get respect, is letting people know who we are and what we can, what we can tolerate and what we can't tolerate, what's not. And we'll find that we're more tolerable when we do the healing work. We're tolerable of a lot of things. We don't have to tell people what music they can listen to. We don't have to tell people all these rules things. Boundaries are saying what kind of, that I'm not going, boundaries really set with ourself first are the most distinct. Because then I can say to myself, well, this is, not what I'm able to do right now. Whether it's, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, or financially, that we need to set the boundaries. We can say, this is what I'm not willing to do right now. I can't do this right now, or what have you. Then we're not compromising ourselves. So boundaries simply communicate what allows us to remain honest and respectful and emotionally healthy. Boundaries aren't punishment and they're not rejection. A boundary protects the relationship with yourself as much as the relationship with another person. So healthy boundaries create trust because people know where they stand. Epic. You can set boundaries with a partner, but not on the first date, and there's such a thing as overstepping. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Epic. That is so true. So true. Is there a point where boundaries, that's a good question, Jen, where boundaries may become avoidance? They can be, because people can say any kind of words and say, because I have a friend that she will say, she's a definite avoidant. And she'll say, I'm setting a boundary. And what she's doing is she's making a rule. So some people may say they're setting a boundary when they're really making a rule, setting a bar so high that she can't even reach that bar. So this is what somebody else was talking about earlier about blaming somebody else. There's so many, when somebody is blaming somebody else all the time for a problem, I really can't do too much with them, not even if they're a friend of mine. I have to be like, okay, and then I have to set boundaries with myself that I'm not gonna hang out with her as long as she's blaming everybody else. So that's a boundary I would have to set with myself. But just because somebody says they're setting a boundary, they may be creating rules, because setting boundaries isn't about verbally abusing somebody. That's not what a boundary is. Boundaries aren't about accusing people and then saying, you're not going to do this to me anymore, and accusing them of doing stuff. So a lot of times people will say, these things, but it's not the same. So yes, people can say they're setting boundaries and it being an avoidant, because what she's avoiding is looking at herself in the mirror. We talked about looking at yourself in the mirror. She's avoiding looking at herself if she's pointing the finger at everybody else, because what? There's these fingers pointing back at you. So, do my boundaries come from love or fear? Because if they come from fear, you know, they might be the wrong boundaries. So would a boundary allow me to remain true to myself? You know, so it's about staying true to yourself is what the boundary is. If you're saying that negative dialogue to yourself and think that everybody else is wrong and that you're right, well, then that's being that victim mentality. Dr. Mark, life is simply a learning experience, and when we practice at anything, we become the better person, usually, not rocket science, just yes, because we're evolving. We're going to evolve. Hello, Riviera. We were talking about compatibility, and we talked about self-compatibility on Monday, so we're just extending it a little further about what do we say to ourselves if we say my picker's broken. So that can be expanded into family, it can be expanded into friends, it can be work and partnership. So it's not just solely like that, but it's like an alignment. So, our compatibility is what we're in alignment with. So peace is a value also. So many people mistake peace for boredom because chaos has become familiar. So when we're choosing familiar, a lot of people, when they get in a peaceful relationship, they expect the other shoe to fall. And they may even self-sabotage because thinking it's boredom or thinking that things are going on because they're not getting this adrenaline going, or, and these hormones released with that excitement of dysfunction if they've grown up in chaos and dysfunction. So they may think that because things are peaceful that it's boring and there's sneaky stuff going on. If they grew up, I talked about that, lies, the sneaky stuff on Monday, I think. I talked about the lies and sneaky stuff. So if you didn't catch Monday's video, then it's there. So peace isn't the absence of feeling. It's the absence of constant emotional survival. See, if your central nervous system, this is where the Reiki helped me a great deal. There was Reiki done on me for a very long time. I didn't just wake up like this. I was a hot mess in my ute, as they say. And so the Reiki being done on me helped me a great deal to calm my central nervous system, my autonomic system, so that I could live in my body, get comfortable in my own skin, rather than trying to anticipate and strategize all this stuff, because I grew up in trauma. A lot of us did, but we haven't learned to know our body. So a lot of times the first thing we sabotage is our body. So peace isn't the absence of feeling, it's the absence of emotional survival. When peace becomes one of our values, we stop confusing intensity with intimacy. And that reflection of that is, does peace feel comfortable or uncomfortable to me? When nothing's happening, when it's quiet, when it's peaceful. When all of us were out of the house and my dad was single and alone one time, he told me, and it was a reflection of our house and the central nervous system. He says, Stacy, I cannot stand this quiet. Why? How do you deal with it being quiet? Because I lived by myself. And he's like, how do you deal with it being quiet? And I'm like, I like it. It's peaceful. So what was peaceful to me didn't feel peaceful to him because he had that chaos and grew up in that chaos. And so when it got quiet, he didn't feel comfortable. So when we're reflecting on peace, what have I been calling love that might actually be anxiety? Because, we talked about in the videos that sometimes in these different things, when we're releasing cortisol and, adrenaline, dopamine, all of this stuff, it can be toxic if it's coming from the wrong place, the wrong mindset, that survival skill, it can become toxic. So consistency is a value. Epic. Setting boundaries is more of a science than an art. You need a healthy mind to set healthy boundaries. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. What is crazy is that I'm extremely self-aware about my self-sabotaging activities, yet I can resort back to them. You need support probably, Salma, because that's the thing is that, accountability and support. So we talked about those as values, and they're values. But I know for me, I had to have accountability and support because I had to get somebody to teach me what I didn't know, And that's oftentimes why we resort back to that self-sabotaging, is because that feels safe and it feels familiar. So without support and accountability, we tend to go back to that self-sabotaging. So I encourage you, if you need a 12-step program, those are like free. If you need a coach, I'm a coach, you can email me, but it's going to take more than just trying to figure it out in your head to intellectualize it. Because I know I used to try to intellectualize. You're smart. I was smart too. But the more that I kept defeating myself, sabotaging, the less smart I felt. And so I had to just learn what I didn't know yet. That was all. It wasn't that I wasn't smart. I just had to learn what I didn't know yet. Because it's a learned coping. Yes, exactly, Epic. Thank you. What you believe to be safe. Ravira, how to deal with toxic bosses. Yes, we're talking about that. And it's about having your values. And so when your values are compromised, and so learning how to relate, or not really relate, but to respond to the toxic boss rather than react is what I'm trying to say. Learn how to respond to it and respond to it in yourself, having boundaries with yourself, because I know how toxic bosses can be. And I had to leave a job because of toxic bosses, because I felt like I was selling my soul, And so it can feel that way. And so maybe just looking for another job while you're doing that. You went to therapy the day before. Oh, good. I'm glad you went to therapy. Yes. Yes. 2 separate processes, the day before and currently on anti-anxiety medicine. It does provide a sense of relief. Good, Selma. I'm glad. I'm glad that that's helping. Epic, take the meds, ease yourself off when you make some changes and listen. Thank you very much, Epic. I appreciate that. Mark, meditation and prayer, very, 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 very helpful. Did I miss a very? And making the adjustments to your attitude and behavioral health, also known as diversification of the mind. Yes, yes, meditation helps a great deal. It helps us to have that safety and calmness is what the meditation does. And so, yeah, and it helps us to set our intentions and motivations for the day rather than just feeling like we have to anticipate and strategize through a day. That's when your central nervous system, but the breathing and the meditation help you to be present and to know that you're safe right now and to be in your right mind. You know how people say, oh, get in your right mind. You can get in your right mind with meditation. It releases those chemicals also, that go up and down your spine when you meditate so that you have a healthy balance. Because a lot of times the chemicals you need aren't being released. Your chakras may be closed, and your chakras is your relationship with your body. Basically, it's nerve centers. While they're not scientific, they're, more holistic, but there is science that goes along also with the chemicals and with how your body works. Your body is magnificent, and to take care of your body, mind, and soul is very important. So, consistency. This is the thing. This is why accountability is so important, because consistency. So, trust is rarely built through grand gestures. It's built through consistent actions over time. This helps you to also build integrity. Consistency turns not only into the virtue of integrity. Integrity is a virtue as well as one of these values. So it all kind of runs together. So trust is rarely built through grand gestures. It's built through consistent actions over time. Like my clients know that I'm not going to cancel on them for just nothing. Y'all know that when I say that I'm going to be here on Monday morning or Monday evenings and Friday nights, I'm going to be here. I'm consistent. I'm going to be here on Wednesday mornings and Sunday mornings. That's consistency. So that builds trust. We often look for someone's potential while overlooking their patterns. Patterns tell us much more than promises. Consistency also asks us to become dependable with ourselves, that accountability. Dr. Mark, all of us at one time or another are affected by the people we live with. The people we love with our neighborhood are just bad news. When we can become emotionally compromised, meditation exercises help. Yes, yes. And being focused on what we do want, because the people we live with may not have our best interest at heart, and they might be overbearing because they say that they do, but we also have our own mind too. We talked about that on Monday night, and that was Khalil Gibran. that says, your children come through you. We can't control our children after they're grown. We have to let them have their experience. Or was that another thing I was in? I don't remember. Oh, that was another meeting I was in, Manjuro. Okay. So in reflection, do my actions consistently reflect my values? And am I paying attention to patterns instead of just hoping for change? Because nothing changes if it doesn't change. So we can't just keep doing the same thing expecting different results. So freedom is a value. So freedom isn't doing whatever we want. That's, having boundaries. I have freedom and I have boundaries at the same time. What was it, like 2-3 weeks ago, somebody asked me to go to a pool party when I come on here on Friday nights. And I'm like, no, I can't go to the pool party because I do this on Friday nights. This is still freedom for me. This is still freedom. And it's also consistency, and it's also, boundaries with myself. So freedom isn't doing whatever we want. Freedom is living in alignment with our values instead of living under the weight of fear, guilt, or constant approval seeking. Because I wasn't trying to get people's approval. They really wanted me to go to that pool party, and I'm like, no, I have a commitment. So it's honoring our commitments. I love my commitments. I don't make commitments I don't want to make. So it is the ability to choose without abandoning ourselves. So in reflection, what fear keeps me from making the choice I know is right for me? And where have I mistaken compliance for peace, right? Because sometimes people mistake that they don't want conflict and confrontation, so they just say, I want peace, but at the same time, they're being compromised, right? So connection is a value too. Thank y'all for staying. We've been here a while. So human beings are wired for connection. But authentic connection doesn't require us to lose ourselves. The strongest connections happen when two people can bring their authentic selves into the relationship without needing to perform, rescue, or convince. So connection grows where honesty, trust, and respect already exist. So that's what we do here. We have connection. And I love this connection we have here. So in reflection, am I connecting from authenticity or need to be accepted? Because like was said earlier, some people are listening or not listening, they're just waiting to respond. So are we listening to respond, or are we anticipating to react, to say something? So in reflection, am I connecting from authenticity or need to be accepted, or do I feel seen for who I am or for the role that I play? So, and asking, what are your values? Which values have I ignored, dismissed, or compromised, and what did it cause me? So we're about to close finally, y'all. Thank you for being here. Epic, thank you so much. I know that you've been here this whole time, so I don't know who's still here. It says 1 up there. So even 1 counts, though. And now it says 2. So I know that it's been kind of skewed lately to where we don't really know, because sometimes it says 0, and I don't know. So in closing, is my picker broken, right? Maybe you've asked it after a relationship ended, after a friendship changed, or after a job disappointed you, or after someone you trusted let you down. Last man standing. All right, Epic. Thank you. So maybe you've asked after, these things. And so the truth is our choices didn't happen in isolation. They're influenced by our experiences, our beliefs, our fears, and often by the messages we've carried with ourselves for years. So if we leave here thinking our picker is broken, we also risk believing we are broken. Thank you, Jen Wu. I'm glad that you're here. I thank everyone who's here. And thank those that were here before. And, it goes kind of long, but I'm glad that everyone can come in whenever they come in. Thank you, Pam. And yes, thank you for those hearts, whoever sent in those hearts. So I believe many of us have simply been making choices with the level of awareness, trust, and understanding that we had at the time. So we can learn. Yeah, it says, now down to 4, but it's still cool. I'm so glad that we're still connected. We're about to get to breathe together, y'all, and I love breathing with y'all. So it isn't failure, it's being human, y'all, and accepting our humanness. This is where acceptance comes in. So as we grow in self-awareness, identify our values and strengthen our boundaries and develop what I like to call our trust muscles, right? And we're always going to be developing trust muscles. Each time we try something new, each time we meet someone new, it's learning to trust ourselves. That's developing our trust muscles because it's our muscles. So our choices naturally will begin to change, not because someone else changed, not because life suddenly became easier, but because we're listening to ourselves. We're learning to recognize what aligns with our values and what asks us to compromise those values. We're learning that compatibility begins with the relationship that we have with ourselves. And so whether you're single or in a relationship or rebuilding family connections, thank you, Epic, or navigating our workspace, this conversation is much more than about finding the right person, okay? I think you're a great moderator. You've done a great job. Thank you. Because you've been kind. You've given people chances. And when they mess those chances up, you put them out. You did great. Let's give Epic some hearts. I give you a heart. I think he's a great moderator too. Epic's a great moderator. So it's about becoming someone who trusts their own choices enough to live in alignment with what truly matters. Your picker isn't a life sentence. Every choice you make today is an opportunity to strengthen your trust, honor your values, and create a life that reflects who you are. So this week I invite you to notice your choices, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Because every conscious choice is another repetition that strengthens your trust muscles. And then when trust grows, fear no longer has to make your decisions. So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Thanks, Epic, for moderating, and you did a great job. Thank you, Pammy, for being here. Dr. Mark, if Dr. Mark is still here. Jen Wu, I'm glad you're here. Thank you. And I know that John London was here. I don't know if John London is still here, but we are about to breathe, darling. Salma, glad you're going to therapy. And yeah, anyone else who is still here. All right, let's breathe, darlings. Let me see if I'm missing any comments before Dr. Mark, raining a little bit. So you're going to sing and record and post Singing in the Rain, a classic. All right, Dr. Mark, I'm going to go look at and everything. I'll look forward to seeing that. All right. Have you sang The Shady Lady? Am I going to find that on your page, The Shady Lady? I know, right? Yep. All right, let's breathe and get in that meditative mode and just feel comfortable in our own skin from within. Grinch is ready to breathe with us. You're going to breathe with us, darling? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to breathe now. So let's just take a deep breath in, breathing in that freedom, fresh rain. Hold it. And release gently and slowly. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. Release. Just two more. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. Last one. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Thank y'all so much for breathing with me today. The parrot's name is Grinchy. Grinchy. Definitely check out the witch. I will. I will. And who did you say that you said that there was some director, so to make sure I get the right one. Thank you, Dr. Mark. I look forward to seeing your videos. And are you going to sleep, Epic? Did you say it's like wee hours of the morning there? Your taste in films? Excellent. I look forward to seeing it. Grinchy was. I think Grinchy just likes the breathing some days. Robert Eggers. Okay. Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's my day off today after I do content. I create content, but I don't work with clients today on Wednesdays. Wednesdays. So y'all have an amazing Wednesday. Is it already Thursday, Epic? Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you Friday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Love you. Have a great day or evening, morning. Get you some blessed and regenerated rest, Epic. We appreciate you. Yes. Yeah. Good night, y'all, from me and Grinchy. Or good day. Good day. Okay. Thanks. Bye.